Well, I'm Paul. I am 61 and I work 1 day a week for the RNLI as a fundraiser. I do 2 days a week for the National Coastwatch Institution up at Fleetwood. I used to be in the Navy many years ago, but I've lived here in Leyland since 1991. But a couple of years ago, because we'd been looking after hedgehogs, just feeding them supplementally in the garden, one of my wife's friends, who's a vet, said, "Oh, we've had a baby hedgehog brought in. There were 5. The mother was killed on the road, as a road kill. So there were 5 that big, the size of a block of butter." But over the next week or so, they managed to find all 5 of these little hedgehogs. So we had to hand rear them with syringes of puppy milk, just hold them and squirt syringes of milk into them, and then eventually bring them onto solid food. So we ended up rearing a whole litter of 5, which is a normal sized litter for a wild hedgehog. But rarely do all 5 survive. There's usually a run to the litter, and there's usually one that doesn't quite make it. So 3 is a good survival rate. But in actual fact, we got all 5 of them to survive. And once they'd reached a certain size, we felt happy to release them. There's a certain sense of trepidation. You've nurtured them and you've got them to a certain point, but it's sort of like having kids. You do exactly the same, and then there's a point where you kick them out and allow them to make their own way in the world. And if people have got dogs, they'll be familiar with puppies. If people have got cats, they'll be familiar with the concept of kittens. Hedgehogs are just like that. They have babies as well. They have just as much a right to thrive and survive. And when you know that a standard litter is only 5 baby hedgehogs, but of that 5, probably only 3 will achieve adulthood, and maybe only 1 or 2 will achieve a second year. The fact that we managed to raise 5 and release them was very rewarding for us, and I think we're up to about 21 hedgehogs in the last 3-4 years now that we've should we say fostered or looked after to some extent. When they come naturally to the garden, they're just little wild creatures. They're inhabitants of our local community. They're a sort of an iconic little creature in that, there's no other little spiky things like hedgehogs. Nature in a garden that's a proper garden has all sorts of wildlife in it. It's got butterflies, it's got moths, it's got bats, it's got frogs, it's got rats, and it's got hedgehogs and birds and all sorts of things. And if you don't have a full range of nature in your garden, there's something wrong. It's an artificial construct, really, which gardens are, of course. But it was just that feeling of being able to help to protect creatures that are starting to become endangered in the UK. Pretty well every hedgehog rescue centre is a voluntary organisation. There's no central coordinating organisation, so every rescue centre will be saying, please supply us with donations if you've got them, old towels if you've got them, meat-based cat food if you've got them. The one in Leyland also collects old newspapers because they shred those and use those as bedding. And I think pretty much the same with most hedgehog rescue centres. They're manned by well-meaning and kindly volunteers who do it from the goodness of their heart, really, with a desire to prevent an endangered species getting any worse and eventually dying out.